Hallo alle miteinander! Willkommen auf der Sony PlayStation-Bühne. Habt ihr bestimmt an der blauen Farbe erkannt, neben all den Logos, die überall rumfliegen. Ich bin René, damit ihr gleich wisst, mit wem du das. Hi! Ich finde das immer nett, wenn ich mich vorstelle und jemand direkt winkt. Super cool. Wir machen hier jede Menge spannende Dinge. Wir haben schon Sachen heute Morgen verschenkt. Wir verschenken eine PlayStation nachher noch. 2 sogar, muss ich sagen. Also 2 PlayStation 4 verschenken wir heute noch. Controller, Spiele, Merch, eigentlich alles. Alles, was das Gamescom Gamerherz begehrt. Jetzt aber erst haben wir eine Q&A-Runde. Das bedeutet, wir unterhalten uns mit Entwicklern des Spiels und diesmal ganz besonders eines der PS4 Launch Titles, ja, das ist schon ein bisschen in der Vergangenheit, ne? Das war nicht erst gestern, und zwar rede ich von The Elder Scrolls Online. Gibt es da jemanden, der Elder Scrolls Online spielt? Jede Menge, die dabei sind? Wow, einer, 2. Echt jetzt? Necromancer oder welche Klasse spielst du? Ja, hast du mir gleich richtig erraten. Weiß Bescheid. Weiß Bescheid. Dafür habe ich einen sehr, sehr coolen Gast. Und zwar hoffe ich, dass ihr den Game Director von Elder Scrolls Online gleich mit einem ordentlichen Applaus begrüßt. Denn hier ist Matt Firor. Hey Matt, great to have you here. Have a seat on the left, please. I don't want to get used to new chairs, you know. No, it's all good. Great to have you. I said already to the people, obviously, we talk about a game that was a PS4 launch title.
Yep.
That's a bit in the past already.
Yep.
But we know that you also evolved, so we'll talk about that later a bit. Let's have a quick overview first. What is The Elder Scrolls Online?
So The Elder Scrolls Online is, of course, the multiplayer version of the games that you know and love, like Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim. So Elder Scrolls Online takes that world, the world of Tamriel, and adds other players to it.
So when we talk about other players and all that, how big is it right now?
So far, about 13.5 million players have played ESO, so it's very, very, very big.
That's a lot of people you can run into.
Yeah.
That is definitely true. And Tamriel must be a huge...
Yes, it's very big. And of course, we launched in 2015 on PS4, and every 12 weeks since then, we've updated the game with more content, more quests, more characters, and more parts of Tamriel to explore.
As you said already, that is a launch title. How is that to be such a... Because you're obviously working on a console that no one saw before, that people don't have on retail, you can't check it out. How is that?
Well, it's the first time I ever made a console game, so I was a PC developer before that. And I'll say it was really cool to develop for PS4 because it was really, really well done. The SDK, the software, the development. The PS4 was very powerful, so it was just like a PC for developers, and it just all worked. It was great. The hardest part was getting it to work with a controller, and other than that, it's very cool. It's a big game, so with a controller, it's very cool to play.
I was wondering, normally massive multiplayer online games have a lot of buttons, and obviously you're slightly limited.
Elder Scrolls Online is much more like Skyrim, so not so many buttons. It has a very small toolbar, so it works great on controller.
That's good news for all the console players out there that didn't check it out yet. But it's not just a launch title and that's where it stopped, basically. You guys went through the whole tech evolution of the PlayStation, right?
Yeah. I mean, we were on the base PS4 when it launched. Then we evolved when the PS4 Pro came out, and now we run in 4K with some better, or at 1080p with better graphics. It's your choice. So yeah, we love to keep the game updated and make sure that we're always working with the new technology.
Is there any problem with updating into 4K? Because obviously everyone has a title and he thinks like, oh, it should be 4K. Would be great. Elder Scrolls Online is already. Yeah. Is it such a hard task?
It actually, our art was already very high resolution, and on lower end PCs and on the base PS4, we just showed the lower resolution versions, but we had all the art already, so it wasn't very hard to just make it all work in 4K, and it looks beautiful.
You said that you obviously went with the technology, you updated all of that, you improved all of it, but you also improved content and storyline, which also obviously brings us to Elsweyr, the latest one. What is in there? What did you bring to the world over time?
Yeah, so this year we did something completely different with our content. Instead of telling lots of little stories over the year, we're telling one giant story we call Season of the Dragon, where dragons invade Elsweyr, which is the land of the cat people, the Khajiit. And so with Elsweyr, we brought dragons for the first time in Elder Scrolls Online, playing in Elsweyr for the first time in Elder Scrolls since 1994, and the ability to play the Necromancer, which is a new class, so players could play the evil character.
Can you just give us some more info about the Necromancer? Obviously, it is a class that people might know from.
Yep.
It's one that's used in many different titles, but how does it work in Elder Scrolls
Well,
Online?
it uses, of course, the power of the dead, basically, to be powerful. One cool thing about the Necromancer is that in Elder Scrolls, necromancy is illegal. It's not legal. So if you do necromancy in towns and guards see it, they will attack you. So it's a cool role-playing thing for, to make sure you're in a safe place before you start, raising the dead and attacking things.
Can even be chased by police. That's harsh. But now with all that new content, if I would be a new player and I dive into the Elder Scrolls Online, can I go with that, like the Season of the Dragons immediately?
Yep. One of the coolest things about Elder Scrolls Online, and we did this a lot because it's on console, is we wanted to make it so you could always jump in and play the newer content. So levels in the game don't matter so much. It's kind of like Grand Theft Auto. You don't really care what level you are, you just jump in and play. And Elder Scrolls Online's the same way. So it's not like the older MMOs that where you have to grind through the game to get to the new stuff. Here, you can just get Elsweyr if you've never played ESO and play Elsweyr from the first moment. So we're unique in that way. So the new content is always accessible to the new player.
So we don't have to grind until we are finally at level, basically, to get into new stuff. That's always great, because something I don't like about the games, I have to say that. It's like everyone wants to see the new stuff, right? Even if you never played through the original.
Who has time to grind your character up to level 132 just to see the new stuff, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to have more time
right
for
from
that.
The beginning.
It's always the same, but it did not only bring the dragons in the new storyline, the necromancers. In your last update, you also did a lot of new features, right?
Yeah, well, it's the Season of the Dragon, which means it's content over the whole year. So we have dungeon DLCs, which are launching next week on PS4, with a little DLC called Scalebreaker. And then the end of the year, I think early November on PS4, is our last DLC of the year, which is called Dragonhold, which wraps up the whole story of the Season of the Dragon. So I don't want to spoil it for you, but in Skyrim, there was an organization you helped called the Dragon Guard, which hunted dragons. Elder Scrolls Online is set 700 years before Skyrim, and there's not so many dragons. So the Dragon Guard is very small, not very many of them, and you, in our fourth quarter DLC, you help them grow and become strong and hunt down the last of the dragons.
Talking about growth, I mean, we said already the game exists since the PlayStation 4 exists. Yep. But you guys are not like the clients, not like if people now think, oh, I might be too late for the Elder Scrolls. And it's not, right? Because you're just growing. Yeah,
we've been growing. We're bigger now than we were last year, right? We just keep adding new players and new content. So it's always a good time to jump in and play if you haven't played yet. I believe we have a free trial coming up soon, so you can just jump in and not even buy the game for a couple of days and try it out. So it's always good. Yeah, we have 13.5 million players across all platforms. We're very successful. We're super happy with how the game is going.
Now that means you can also invite all your friends that might not have the game yet. Obviously, if there's an open trial, it makes it a lot easier to bring everyone in. You said already it's the Season of the Dragons.
Yep.
Is there anything already for the next one? What happens next year?
That is a secret.
Oh, at least a bit.
We're already working on it, and it's really cool. But next...
Right, now everyone's like, awesome news, thank you.
Next year we are going to have a season-long story again, a year-long story, just like this year, but different story, different location.
Dragons are now pink then. That's the only change. No, you had dragons already. Where could we go back?
I did not say that.
No, it's not. I was just wondering because obviously we know that the Elder Scrolls Online plays before Oblivion and before Skyrim. Before Skyrim. True. It's right. Not that I say something wrong. I was like, I'm just trying to go through timeline. So you can obviously still link it up. How hard is it to come up with new storylines when you actually know the kind of ending, right? Since you have been there.
Yeah, I mean, getting into the lore of the Elder Scrolls, it's a perfect world for a game like this because Morrowind, Oblivion, and Skyrim are 3 fantastic games, but they only take a little part of the continent of Tamriel for each one. So there's a lot of land left for us to do content every year. And of course, we did Morrowind already, which is like nostalgia for people that played the original Morrowind way back in 2002. But you know, it's just endless opportunity to come up with new stories and new characters, which is why we picked 700 years before, because the provinces are the same, the races are the same, but it's enough time that we can tell our own stories. And the time we picked is a time in history where not a lot of people know what happened. There's not a lot of books written about it, and so it was great for us to start fleshing that out with lots of cool stories and characters.
More freedom to actually dive into and create original story. I like that. I mean, it's always great to see that there's so many creative people coming up with new ideas, even after years of launch, because you guys supporting the game every single month.
Yep.
Is there, besides the thing that we don't need to grind until the end game to actually see new content, what else would you say are the features that ensure that the Elder Scrolls Online is growing every month?
You know, I say this a lot. If you ask 5 different players of the Elder Scrolls Online to describe the game, they describe 5 different games. Because it's so big, you can play solo, you can play the whole game solo almost, all the quests. There's a big PvP component, so you can PvP. There are players that just log in and craft armor and weapons and sell them to other people, which is perfectly fine. There are players that love co-op multiplayer and just love to do the dungeons. So all of those are okay, and so it's good for us because every year we give a little bit of content to each of those player types. So if you want to play an online role-playing game, it's that. It's a PvP game, it's a crafting game, right? So it's got a little bit of everything for everyone.
Yeah, whatever you need at that moment. But regarding the dungeons, we know that's something that was added into a lot of MMOs. Is there a unique way you guys brought dungeons to Elder Scrolls Online?
Unique for what?
In terms of how you do the dungeons in general, either from the build-up to mechanics used there and all that.
Yeah, so in fact, the DLC that's launching next week is 2 new dungeons. And so every dungeon we add new mechanics, like boss mechanics, so puzzles you have to solve in order to defeat. And in this case, the bosses are 2 big dragons, so it's very cool. But the dungeons for us are cool for co-op, for puzzle solving and combat, but also we get to go deep into lore sometimes. So the 2 dragons in the DLC that are launching next week have their own stories that you get to learn about as you go through the dungeon. So it's an opportunity to learn more about the world, but also have a great co-op kind of boss raiding experience.
When you say co-op, how many friends do I need for the new dungeons?
Sorry,
how many friends should I bring to the new dungeon? When you say co-op, how big is the group for that?
So we have a couple of different modes. We have 4. The normal is 4-player, but then we have a hard mode, which is still 4-player, which is very hard. And then we have trials, which are 12-player, and then we have hard trials, which are very, very, very hard. I have never completed a hard trial.
I was just wondering if I can get 12 people to be online at the same time of the day. That's the hard part, right? It's like I'll play mostly during the night, so it's not easy. But you also mentioned another DLC coming after the dungeons. What's that all about?
Yeah, in Dragonhold, which is the last one of the year.
No, there was a smaller one?
That is Scalebreaker, which is coming out next week. That's the dungeon.
Oh, that's the dungeon one.
Yeah,
All right, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you don't want to spoil the last one.
We have content every 12 weeks, so it's hard to keep track sometimes.
Really? Is it definitely every 12 weeks?
4 times a year, yeah.
How many people are you in this?
It's a big team.
It's like, if you need to have content ready every 12 weeks, you're obviously not working those 12 weeks just on the content, since it takes longer.
No,
right?
different teams work on different parts of the game. So the chapter team, it's a year to do each chapter. So Morrowind, Somerset, Elsweyr, each took a year. And then we have the dungeon teams, which are smaller, and they just make them constantly. And then the story DLC team is kind of part of the chapter team, and it takes them about 4 months. So it's just, but that's why people play the game. There's new content coming out all the time. What Elder Scrolls Online is known for the most is its storytelling and great characters, and so this gives us the ability to give great new content and areas of Tamriel to explore all the time.
People are always interested in the people obviously behind working on their favorite game. How do you fit in there? How do you got your way into the Elder Scrolls?
As a developer or as a...
Yes, how did you get the job? How did you dive into it, like the lore in general?
Long ago, I did a game called Dark Age of Camelot, which was an MMO from 2001. And there's one guy out there that remembers it.
It was also the Dark Ages of MMO, basically.
Yeah. It was very, very big in Germany. Very big.
That's true,
And so I made MMOs back then, and so I was hired by Bethesda to make the Elder Scrolls Online in 2007, 2008. So, you know, the hardest part was getting the team together and figuring out what kind of game it was, what platforms it would run on. Of course, in 2008, there was no PS4, and it's way too big to run on the PS3. So we weren't even thinking about console until the game came out, and then the PS4 was announced, and we're like, oh, that's powerful enough that it can run the game, and then we started thinking about it. But, you know, I got into it because I made games before, but we hire all the time writers and programmers and artists, and some new that have never worked on games before, and some that have been in the industry for a long time.
Well, that means you now spent over 10 years with the Elder Scrolls Online, which is a long time, even in that business.
Yep.
How is that? Do you feel like you reached your end already, or sometimes you just wake up, got new ideas, go to the guys and say like, hey, we should do something?
I mean, it's been 12 years for me, but the game...
Yeah, over 10, I say.
The game's been out 2014 on PC, 2015 on PS4. You know, but basically with the chapters that we have with Elsweyr and Somerset and Morrowind, it's like making a new game every year. Yes, it's set in Tamriel, but they're different. You know, there are dragons and necromancers in this one. There's high elves and you know, Daedric Wars in Somerset. Morrowind was really cool because we got to do the nostalgia and tell stories that people knew and loved, and showed a part of the world that everybody knows from Elder Scrolls. So it's just different every time, and we keep it fresh, and we have different employees that get hired and come in with new ideas, and so there's always something new going on.
To be honest, if you go to sleep, you actually dream about Tamriel.
Yeah.
Is that what happens? It's like, must be, right? You spend so much time in this whole world that you guys created. Is that something that happens? Did you ever dream in Tamriel?
I don't think so, but I mean, I spend all day, you know, thinking about it. So my brain needs to rest sometimes. So.
Yeah, you need great new ideas for the next content. The new season that you don't want to tell us something about yet, but you said next year there will be another big story expansion, I would say.
Yeah.
Trying to improve Elder Scrolls Online. Matt, I thank you very much for your time and for being here.
Thank you.
Once again, Game Director of Elder Scrolls Online, Matt Firor.
Thank you.
So, damit können wir auch wieder zurück zu Deutsch. Es dauert immer ein bisschen. Ja, so, es sind noch alte Zahnräder und alles, bis die sich dann wieder das Getriebe umgestellt haben. Dann geht das. Lasst uns doch mal ganz, ganz kurz einen Blick darauf werfen, was heute noch kommt, damit ihr alle wisst, was ihr noch abräumen könnt, was ihr euch noch anschauen könnt hier. Und ihr seht ganz oben, das haben wir jetzt fertig, die Elder Scrolls Online Elsweyr. Und jetzt gehen wir rüber zu Dreams. Dreams, es fällt mir mal schwer, das Spiel zu nennen. Man kann damit spielen, wenn ihr nichts machen wollt, könnt ihr es einfach starten, Spiele auswählen und spielen, aber Dreams kann noch viel, viel mehr. Und zwar könnt ihr darin eure eigenen Spiele programmieren, designen, von der Musik über die 3D-Modelle, über Logic. Das Ganze funktioniert entweder ganz, ganz simpel oder, wenn ihr natürlich rausgefunden habt, wie sowas funktioniert, dann könnt ihr bei Animationen bis in die Keyframes reingehen, also genauso wie die Game Developer auch. Falls ihr es noch nicht gesehen habt, schaut es euch auf jeden Fall an, denn es hat mich sehr, sehr überrascht persönlich, als wir das erste Mal hier auf der Bühne hatten, wie einfach es ist und wie coole Sachen man damit machen kann. Da werden wir auf jeden Fall auch mal in die Community reinschauen. FIFA 20, da haben wir einen der FIFA 19 Pros hier, der mit euch FIFA 20 spielen wird. Und zwar um PS4-Controller. Da habt ihr also die Chance, PS4-Controller direkt einzustecken, mitzunehmen, zu gewinnen und dabei nach Hause zu gehen. Danach sollten wir Medieval kriegen, wenn ich nicht wäre. Ja, Medieval ab 14 Uhr. Und da gibt es nicht nur Controller, sondern eine PS4 zu gewinnen. Seid ihr also Experten des Klassikers Medieval oder habt euch dann einfach im Remake eingefunden und wisst ganz genau, was da abgeht, dann habt ihr eine Chance, eine PS4 mit nach Hause zu nehmen. Ich würde sagen, dafür hat sich Gamescom das Ticket auf jeden Fall gelohnt. Danach gibt es nochmal FIFA 20, wieder die Chance auf den Controller. Und dann Racing Action mit Crash Team Racing, da könnt ihr wieder eine PS4 gewinnen. Das Spiel, Controller, ein Shirt, also jede Menge noch. Auch dazwischen, all die Segmente, die ihr jetzt nicht gesehen habt, dazwischen kommen wir immer mal wieder auf die Bühne mit Merch und stellen sicher, dass ihr alles habt, was ihr braucht für den gesamten Tag. Ich gehe jetzt noch mal ganz kurz Pause machen, dann komme ich mit dem Matze sicherlich wieder. Sonst für Dreams. Also, wir sehen uns später.